Fraser just asked a question. He wants to discuss what Liam talked about in Discord about PWAs. Okay, I see. So Liam in general had asked this question. I'll go ahead and chat it out. He says, I'm looking at progressier.com to enable push notifications for PWAs, and they asked if we are able to add custom JavaScript into a Bildr app, and if we are able to upload the service worker at the root of your custom domain. So, Drew, Dorian, do y'all have any insight on either parts of that question?
You can definitely add custom JavaScript. I would have to defer to Dorian on the service worker stuff. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
Let's talk about the custom JavaScript real quick. How do you do that?
There's two ways. There's three ways, I guess, but two easy ways. There's an action run JavaScript function. You can put whatever you want in there. There's also an element that's called code block. And you can change the tag to script and put whatever script you want in there. And then the third way, which is a little more complicated, but you could be more versatile, would be a custom action. So that's fully custom JavaScript, and you can do it client side or server side.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. And for the second question,
for the service worker, I've never attempted to see how to even implement that. I'd have to go do some research and see if that's even something we could do.
Okay.
I remember at one point Mark said we can't do it, and then started working on what it would take to do it. And I don't know if he ever got it implemented or I don't know what status it is right now.
Yeah, so we'll need to touch with Mark and see. And then we'll get back to you guys on that. But probably something we'll get done anyways if we don't have the ability to do it now anyways. But
okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we need it for PWAs. Like we're gonna definitely have it at some point.
Okay, that's good to know. Anyways, Fraser, do you have any questions around that? Anything to add?
No, I was looking into it as well, and it seems to me that Mark in the Discord several times has mentioned that he's able to do it, and I wasn't. That's around July last year. I mean this year. So I was wondering how he's going to be able to get that onto the actual server that's running the code that you deploy. So that'd be something new and something that I don't think I'd have a chance to unless it was a server-side action that you could run on load of the app. I'm not sure how that would work, but I'm very intrigued by it and can see lots of possibilities if it's possible. But otherwise, no, I don't have much more.
Well, I get oriented with that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we'll get with Mark and then we'll make sure to reach out to you, Fraser, and probably just put in the general Discord just for everybody. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think he's explored the PWA stuff more than any of the rest of us have. So he may have something to share. So I'll ping him on that. Okay, so moving on, let's see, Alex, it looks like you've got some quick things to cover.
Can you hear me now? I do. Just
I can.
Hopefully. Let me share my screen here. They're all kind of all over the show. So let me pull stuff open here. Hopefully you can see that.
Yep.
So I've got three things I wanted to ask. Two are very related. This first one, I guess, is for Dorian, kind of following on what we were working on yesterday. I don't know if this is a bug or if I'm doing something wrong here, but basically, so remember we were setting those two toggling style classes on those two elements there, like it's either completed, it's green, or there's something wrong, it's red. So I was setting that up on another,
I think as long as I know what
another item here, and this is, there's that condition that's being checked, which is being triggered by a flow. It's being run from off another page. So when I check, this is the page that the condition action is on, and you can see I have it here. So I basically copied this down, changed everything unique to that attribute. Excuse me here. So you can see down at the bottom, I've got flows to run if true or if false, and these are all set. But for whatever reason, it's running the single complete flow. So I went back to the page that's running it, which is on this action here. And then I've got, this is like the updated action that's triggering that condition flow, which is here. So when I check that flow through here, then these actions are gone. And these flows here are from this page.
Dorian, you're muted. Sorry, I muted you because we could hear the people
noise.
talking in the background.
Gotcha. Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I think that's just a bug. Whenever you're opening a flow that exists in another page, it should actually take you to that page, or we need to disable the link that allows you to open the flow. So to see the actions, you'd actually have to go to that page and open it directly from there. But I think I see what the issue is. It looks like you're trying to use the same field that you're using in the cab original place we implemented. So you're overriding that field for the cab flag versus the cab driver flag. So I think you need to create separate flags for each of these different areas that you have there.
Right, which, okay, I thought maybe I had, oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like go into the data collection and still look at the inspection report entities. Because right now you just have the one field, right? But you're trying to track if an issue is flagged independently for each of those different areas. So you'll need to create a separate field for each of those different types. Or else when you update one and the other, you're going to override the flag on the first one, you know?
So I need an entry in the database for each thing that could be flagged.
Each type of
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's why it's not working, because they're conflicting. You're updating one and it'll work, but then on the cab driver, you're using that same field and now you overrode the setting from the original one, you know?
Of course, that makes sense. I felt like that's what was going on with the actions, like it was overriding something else. So that makes sense then if that's where it's coming from. Okay, thanks. I've got another quick one and then more of a discussion if we have time. So similar type of thing. So basically, long story short, I've got these toggles that is recording, I guess, to, it's either a 1 or a 0, recording to the database. Now, in another part of the app, I have these like checkboxes where you would like select what's used or what was happening, and then I need to display that later. Is there, now I was thinking I'd probably use a similar setup as to what I kind of just built, but is there another way to do that with like a tick box so that when they load, I can represent that as like what was used as in a read-only version? I don't know if you can see, but I've kind of got a
yeah, so tick box you can kind of in Bildr just treat it just like a normal input field. So the save will just go to a field in the data collection. The set of it, you could just use the data binding or a set value action. The one thing you'll need to do for the read only is you can either set an attribute through an action for disabled. That way it's read only, or add read only, either one will work. Or you can edit that element's JSON and add the attribute by default if you have a separate like read only form. And I would do that method just because it'll, as soon as it's rendered, it's already by default, it comes in disabled or read only.
Okay, because that's what I guess the problem I was experiencing. I could set so it looked like it was selected, but you could still click it.
Yeah. So it just needs a read only or disabled attribute on it.
Alex, do you know where to set those attributes?
I do not, but I can. Or is that
You have it open right now? We could, that's a quick one if you want to just add it right now.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm coughing here. Sure, let me go here. Oh, sorry, we're loading. I got lots going here. So I've got basically here, this is the entry form. This is carbon copy of that, but the read-only version.
So yeah, go to that read-only version and just select one of the checkboxes. And then there's a couple ways to do this, but I think probably the easiest way is just in the JSON. So once you select on one, go to properties and then hit the JSON button on the bottom.
To the way bottom.
Yeah, at the way bottom.
Oh,
So you-
sorry, I've got Zoom windows in the way here.
Uh,
Oh, there's a whole, couldn't see it.
And so like this JSON, just so everyone knows, or if people are watching this in the future, this is like representing everything about that element. So all the settings you do are reflected in here. And then you can also just change this manually and it's reflected in your settings. So this is where if you need to do anything custom, you do it. And so if you go like all the way to the top, it's going to be like third or fourth line. See line 3 says class.
Yep.
At the end of that class line, you put a comma. And then press enter and we'll add a new property. So after the quote, do a comma. And then enter. And so here's where we'll add an attribute because you're in the attributes object and it's giving you the class attribute right now. We're going to add an attribute for disabled. And what you do is in quotes, you do disabled. And then colon after and just not in quotes, write true. So it's saying disabled true.
And you'll need a D, so it's disabled.
Oh, sorry. Yep. And then in JSON, that's all you need. But in JSON, you always have to hit that save JSON changes at the bottom. Otherwise, it won't save when you go out. Yep. So that should do you. You have to do that on every single one, but that'll make it read only. And you could also, like Dorian said, you could have written read only instead of disabled. Same kind of thing. But I always use disabled personally.
Okay.
So Jeff is asking, could you not just disable the attribute in the styling?
If you did it in styling, you can make it look disabled, but they could still actually click it.
Yeah.
So like you could, I mean, in this case, like say you faked it, say you like hard coded it, so it always looked like it was checked. If it was checked, then when they clicked it, it would uncheck technically, but it would look like it's checked. Like you could actually get that done, but using disabled or read only is a more like foolproof or correct way, basically.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Alice, did you have something else?
I've got a super quick one. I'll show you what I'm trying to do. On a website, I've got like imagine a bunch of cards, all different unique products. Click one, it would go to the products page and then scroll to that element. I was trying to set that up, but because I have this set under a different URL. So I was trying to like click it, run flow on a page to scroll to that element. But I think because it's loading another page, it couldn't how would I tackle that?
What you can do for that is set the thing that you want to scroll to. You'll have to like append that to the URL. So that URL was slash products, I think.
Yeah.
So you can either do slash products slash the product name, or you can do slash products question mark product equals. There's a couple ways to do it, but one way or another, you pass that product you want to scroll to into the URL. And then when the product page loads, you have to check the URL and see what that value is that you're passing in the URL, and then scroll to the appropriate product on that product's page.
Right. So set that component to the URL value.
Well, it's basically like on page load, you'll run a condition. And if you have more than two products, you'll do a condition switch. And the
Right.
condition switch, the first thing it checks is the URL. So like for this kind of thing, I would usually do this with a query string. It's kind of up to you. There's a couple ways, but query string makes sense.
The easy
So that's
way.
that's question mark equals kind of set up in the URL. But I mean, we can add it in. We'll do like one if you want right now,
Sure.
and then
It's not a big thing. I was just trying to do it and then couldn't get it firing, so I thought I'd ask. But
yeah. And I think, and I see in the chat mentioning the using an anchor, like the pound sign. That's actually like the true HTML way to do this. The only thing is it won't scroll to it in Bildr. So if you want it to like load and then scroll to it, you'd have to do what I was about to say.
Okay.
But you could basically say slash products, the pound sign product name. And then on each of the products on the product page, you give it an ID that matches with that pound sign product name. If you do something like that, it'll be all automatic. You don't even have to use actions. When they load that products page, it'll just jump right down to the product you want. So I don't know if you have a preference there.
was probably just scroll down to that.
And like see it scroll.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that case, if you go to one of those products, like the actual wherever you set the page that it opens, like when you click on it, whatever action runs, or if it is it a link, it's probably an action, right?
Let me. I feel like I'm still in the JSON.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So right there, that product, if you start typing in there, after the word product, you can type question mark. And you can say like this actually is kind of up to you, but I'll just say like product equals whatever. You can say anything, because you can say scroll to equals, you can say P equals, but for now you just say product equals, and then write the product name basically. So if that's fleet management, you do like, yeah, exactly. No spaces or anything, because this is in the URL. So whatever you want to put, and then just make sure you remember fleet MGMT. And so like when you do that, if you didn't do anything else, it would open the products page just like normal, like that. Whenever you type a question mark in a URL, everything after is a query parameter. It's not going to affect anything unless you make something, unless you handle it yourself.
Sure.
So on this products page, you can go to page load flow. And then you can add an action for condition switch. And so this first part of this test value, that's where we're going to pull the query string. So instead of coming from text there, come from request. It's like all the way it's like second from the bottom, I think. Yeah. And then select the type. It's a query string. You can do browser URL query string. I think browser or segment in this case would work, but browser is like always the live one you see in the URL. So that makes sense. And the query string, the actual thing. So we did question mark product equals. So the string name is product. And so product is going to be whatever you write after the equal sign. So you can, for the flow to run, if no match is found, you can leave that blank, because if there's no query string, you just want it to load the page normally, you don't do anything. And then in the first value down there, type fleet MGMT, and you can just type it in. And then the action is, I don't know if you have it built yet, but whatever action to scroll to that product, you run that action. Yep. So you can test this now and that should work. And then what you'll do is for each product, you'll build out a different name after product equals and a different flow to scroll to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, just copy. Let me see. there's probably not an action on there. Oh, there is too. Amazing. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Looks good. Thanks so much.
I love when it
So
works
nice.
first try. Very
Yeah.
rare.
Me too.
Awesome.
How do you get is there an action that says like scroll to
Yep. It's
container?
called scroll to element, I think.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
That's exactly. I have. Oh my God. I can show it on here. This scroll to element, and then you just pick the whatever you want.
Yep. I like using this way in Bildr because you can pick any element. It's like really easy. If you're using the anchor links, which is what I would normally do, like before I was into Bildr, I would use anchor links. Then you have to go add an ID to whatever you want to scroll, and you have to do that in the JSON. So it's a little more complex. So I kind of like just going this scroll to element route. It's a little bit more straightforward in Bildr.
Yeah, and using this action gives you a smooth scroll where the anchor just pops.
Yeah, yeah.
But just different preferences.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Alex, for that. That was super helpful. All right. So moving on, did anyone else have something they wanted to look at that's in the call right now? Or should I just start going down the questions? Okay. I guess chime in at any point. Okay, so I'm going to chat out this next question. This is from Maine, who was on the call a few weeks ago. She isn't able to make it today, but she is asking, it looks like she's having trouble figuring out how to reference the database in the JS code. I need to write a JS function that loops through every record in my database and checks for a condition, but I don't know how to specify the database that it needs to loop through. Could anyone help?
She actually DM'd me about this, and I answered this morning.
Okay.
And she responded with, she'll try it. Thanks a lot. So I don't know if it's going to do the trick or not, but basically what I told her was you can set any collection data, you can set it into a variable, and it's an array of JSON objects. So at that point, you can write custom JS to loop through just like anything else. So the first step is just a set variable action and then pull it from a data collection. And now with that variable, that's basically what she was looking for, is the JS to loop through. But the other thing I suggested, which is actually what I do these days, is I just put a grid list element on the page and make it display none if I don't want to show it, so it's hidden. And then I set that data collection into the grid list, and instead of like looping with JavaScript, I just run on the page row, whatever that page row page is, I just run a condition or do whatever I was going to do in the loop on each page. It's a little more of like a Bildr native way, and you don't have to write any custom JavaScript.
Okay, awesome. That's really helpful to know. Okay, I guess that answers that one. I'll tag Maine on the replay. All right, so next up, Dorian, this may actually be something that you can help with, or maybe we just need to check it out. This is by Rosso and Auth. So Rosso is working on giving users the ability to archive themselves and then, archive their account in his app, and then they can, then they don't log in and whatnot, and he'll go and delete them later. So right now, through a UI that you build, you cannot delete an actual user through using like a flow or something like that. You have to do it in the user's data collection through the studio. There's security reasons for that. If you guys feel like that needs to change, let me know. So what we had recommended to Rosso is if anyone wants to delete their account, set them as archived. Okay, so you basically allow them to archive themselves, and then anything that you filter, you would filter out anything that's archived, right? So if you're showing a list of members or users somewhere in your actual app, you would just filter out anything that you have set to archived. And so his question is, one, how can a user set their account to archive? He said that he tried the data update record and passing a value of 1 to the deleted field, but that didn't work. And he also tried the data archive record action, but that only asked for the collection. And so he doesn't know how to use that to set it to archive a specific record. And so that's kind of what he's working through. So I know we probably don't have anything set up for that, but Dorian, is there anything we could talk through on that?
Yeah, and because he's trying to update the deleted, which is the thing you don't allow. So the only way he can do it is he needs to add a custom field, the archive, whatever he wants to call it, and he's updating that field, and that will go through. And then
Gotcha.
anywhere he's displaying those, he just needs to filter it against that new field.
Gotcha. And a follow-up question to that is he's asking if it'll immediately prevent them from being able to log in again, which it doesn't, because that would be a custom field, right? So what would he do on his sign up action? Could he add something to that checks to see if the user is, or I'm sorry, sign in? Can he add something to the sign in where he checks to see if the user has that value? And if it does, don't let them sign in?
No, unfortunately, no, because if you're not authenticated, you can't request the users. So no, there's no way around that. Unless Drew, I don't know if there's any that you can think of there, but
Yeah, I mean, I would have said
I don't think
query
so.
the user and then check that
Yeah.
field, but yeah, if you can't.
Okay.
I mean, you could technically, I guess, as soon as they sign in, check that field and then automatically sign them out instantly. Like that would probably get the job done. It's a little weird because it would
Yeah.
actually sign them in for a split second, but that would probably work.
Yeah, that would work. Like he can create a new page that is not like the app or wherever he's redirecting them to, that just does that check and probably just shows a little message to the users, like, you know, and then on that page, he does that check because now you're authenticated and then boots them out or shows a message that says, you know, your account has been deleted.
The other thing that I would maybe recommend is he could theoretically send himself an email that a user has archived their account and then just go in and delete it. And then that handles everything. He doesn't need to do anything else.
Yep.
Yeah, as a manual thing. It wouldn't be true real time because it depend on when he does it, but
Okay. Okay. All right. So we'll see if that can help him.
yeah, and we'll definitely need to go revise the deleted. It's like, I feel like it should allow it if you are trying to delete yourself as a user.
But no one else, right?
Yeah. Like that should be the exception that we should at least allow. That way a user can delete their own account.
Okay. Does anyone have feedback on that? Has anyone run into this before where they want to allow users to delete themselves? Okay. All right. Well, if you do, let me know what you think. But we'll revisit that. I agree with you, Dorian. All right, so moving on. Next question is from Biggie B. This was from last week. We didn't get a chance to answer it. He is asking how to upload a document file from Bildr to Xano. Is there anything special about sending a file?
Yeah, I think so. We get this question a lot actually. And like, there's this thing called, it's an API like request type called multi-part form data. So some people ask about that directly. So like, yeah, it was ominous. It's like, it's basically like a thing that we need to fix that I've heard it from people so many times and I still haven't like actually gotten through everything to fix it. We've started down the path a couple of times. We just haven't gotten it into the API action. So if you're using the default API call action in Bildr, the multi-part form data stuff doesn't work. But it will at some point, you know, when we get it working. But I've done it like custom before. It's just like every time you do it, it's a little different. It's hard to help people with it. And so every time someone asks, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this done for you. And then I just still haven't. So that's why I was so ominous when I said, yeah, but there's definitely a way. And like, if it's something that is needed right now, like I'd be happy to go and help custom on it for sure. So far, the way I've done it is all client side. So it exposes your API key. So to get the real true solution where it doesn't expose your API key, that's where we need to kind of like just build it into our API call action.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's not that there's an issue with what's currently there. It's we need to append some changes to that to allow for that functionality.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. So we'll give that one another upvote on the feature requests. Okay, so let me see here. We just got a question from BabyShark. I can't not do that. Every time I see those words put together. Okay. He was asking in Web3, with the studio, would I be able to make something that allows users to mint a user uploaded image as an NFT on arweave or IPFS, kind of like the create NFT flow on OpenSea? And I'll chat that question so you guys can read it.
Yeah, you definitely can. And I think Swift and I are going to talk about this right after this call. That's how the Studio Pass itself works. So when you generate the artwork for the Studio Pass, it's actually uploading that as an NFT like in real time. And this relates to the last question about multi-part form data, because the way that I've done it actually in like 3 or 4 projects at this point. The way that I do it exposes my API key to Pinata, which is IPFS. So it's like server side, because you have to actually create the file. So there's an action in Bildr that saves an image from any element. So we'll take an element and all of its children and save it as an image. So that's step 1. So whatever you want for your image, you create it in Bildr. It'll save it with that action. And then you need to use a second action to upload it to either arweave or IPFS. And then once you do that, it's like you have the URL, you have that permanent URL for that image, just like anything else. And, you know, then you have to upload your metadata for the NFT. So there's a couple steps there, but it's 100% doable. Again, like right now, it would have to expose your API key. I don't know if that's a problem. Like maybe people aren't as lackadaisical as me or whatever word, but like I just like on the Deads collection I have, it's totally public and people mint their own, and I just expose my API key to Pinata. I don't even care.
Okay.
So it's like, it's not the end of the world, but you know, maybe some people might not be that comfortable doing that.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I can help. That wasn't super specific. So if you want to follow up with me, I can definitely help.
Okay. At Drew. That's what I'll write. See, Drew. Okay, cool. So let me see here. I know that we had a few more people pop in. If y'all have any questions you'd like to ask the team or something you want to talk through, just chat it and we can get to you. Otherwise, we're just rolling on some questions from Discord that we got. Okay, so the next one is going to be from Bexley. All right, so it looks like he actually asked you this one, Drew, and I'll chat the question here in case we can cover it in the call. And so what he's doing is it looks like he's trying to edit an external class via an action. And he's trying something that maybe you suggested to him. And he's saying, when I pulled the data into a variable, I got a large JSON with the following class entries. Could you help me structure the concatenate to replace item 4? Is that way too specific for this call if he's done in here?
It's probably not technically, but I gotta find, I don't actually remember like the original.
This was in flows. And I think it's the very last question in flows.
Let's see.
In the Discord channel.
Let's see. Element set attribute. Oh, okay. So basically, I think I just like skimmed it, but it looks like what I had originally suggested was to use the HTML node of the element, which is sort of like a pretty rare thing that you have to use. But when you are using an action or any action, you know, that you're getting something from an element value, normally you select the element and there's a drop down that's selected on value. And I had suggested to switch that value drop down to say from element, or it's HTML node, I think, or something like that, HTML node. When you do that, what it's actually giving you, instead of the element's value that you're using, it's actually giving you like what you would get in JavaScript, the actual node of that HTML element. And so there's a lot of different like properties in it. So I think it must be giving a large JSON object or array. I don't know exactly like what it gives, so I would have to see it kind of like what comes out, but there's probably just some way to, I mean, you might even be able to do it with like a replace or something. Yeah, I'm not sure.
And it just
I think maybe you have to
depends.
look at it, but
Yeah, so it'll depend on like what property in the HTML node he's targeting. So if it's something that's returning an array or an object, then he'll need to take that a step further and use, you know, a JSON parse or step through where that specific value he's trying to get to. I think to do that, he'll have to do that in a variable first, you know, to be able to use a path.
yeah, and if it's a class, I
And
bet
then-
the classes are an array. I bet it just returns an array of all the
Yeah.
classes. So you'd actually would need to like append an item to that array or replace an item in that array. But it would be specific
Yeah.
to this situation, which I don't have in front of me. So
Okay,
Exactly.
all right.
But yeah,
So,
once he puts that in a variable, he'll then have access to target that with the path. And then in his concatenate or whatever action he's trying to set that in, he'll just pull that value from the variable he set before.
okay, cool. I'll see if he can follow up with you guys. Okay, well, that is all that I have on the list for today. We do have some time left. Does anyone have anything in their projects they want to look at? No, okay. Well, we'll end the call. We do this every Thursday. So except for next week, because we are not going to be in the office. So we'll follow up the week after that. If you have anything else, chat us in the Discord and we will try to help you out there. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week.
Hey, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.